Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Faster Mai, good evening, it's 5:30. This is Update for Monday, 17th of June 2024 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes looking at the latest news on the island. Background to that news with sport and business and travel updates. And the newsmakers in person this evening. 8 primary schools won't now be closing. Ramsey boundary extension rejected. Tilbury talks about Sir Mark Cavendish. It's Cervical Screening Awareness Week, and will you take up golf this summer?
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster Mai, Tessa Hawley.
Faster Mai. The Department of Education, Sport and Culture says it does not accept a recommendation to rationalise primary schools. An independent review into the way schools are funded on the Isle of Man has been published this afternoon. It recommends merging 8 so-called inefficient schools, saying this would save more than £3 million each year. Ramsey Commissioners says it's very disappointed the application to extend its boundary has been rejected. It follows a public inquiry at the start of the year. 18 people who were caught supplying drugs in the Isle of Man's nighttime economy will be sentenced this week. They were all arrested as part of Operation Nightjar. The police initiative, which ran last year, used undercover officers to target the supply of Class A substances. In international news, tax cuts, a promise to leave the European Convention on Human Rights, and a freeze on non-essential immigration are all being promised to voters by Reform UK. Nigel Farage has been launching his party's policies, which he claims will establish them as the real opposition, which Labour and the Tories dispute. Meanwhile, the Lib Dems say they'd expand fuel duty relief for rural drivers, and the Labour Party is trying to prove to voters it's pro-business by focusing on investment. And Rod Stewart says he'll keep speaking out in support of the Ukraine's fight against Russia. He was booed by fans in Germany for displaying an image of the country's president, Volodymyr Zelensky. Those are your headlines. News in full at 6.
Secure tomorrow today with Man Benham's private client team. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Oromaya, thank you, Tessa. From the Ronaldsway Met Office, a strong wind warning in operation for the North Irish Sea, state of sea slight or moderate, and the weather pleasant, a dry evening with clouding over skies, a moderate northwesterly, and overnight minimum of 10 degrees Celsius. For Tuesday, Jamert, dry and cloudy, then breaking for sunny spells as the day goes on in a fresh northwest wind. Daylight maximum 16, down to 10 through the night. And for Wednesday, Jacrane, dry and bright, less windy, up to 17, remember. Thursday, the summer solstice, the longest day. Tide's on the way back in. High water 19 minutes past 9. High tide 6 minutes to 10. Low tide 23 minutes before 4 a.m. Sunrise at 16 minutes to 5. And the morning high water at 26 minutes past 9.
Manx Glass and Glazing are proud to be an approved contractor with Construction Isle of Man. Call the team on 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Recommendations to close 8 of the Isle of Man's primary schools have been rejected by the Department of Education, Sport and Culture. An independent review analysing the current funding systems for schools on the Isle of Man has been published today. Amy Griffiths has been looking at the report.
The report was commissioned by government after 10 years of budgetary restrictions and the introduction of cost-saving efficiencies. It was conducted from October 2022 until June 2023 by Premier Advisory Group and MLG Education. 5 recommendations have been made: changing the school funding formula, reviewing additional education needs, optimising recruitment processes, introducing efficiency metrics, and rationalising the most inefficient primary schools. As part of that last recommendation, the report suggests 8 primary schools should merge with nearby settings, saving up to £3.6 million a year. Its findings show that the greatest source of inefficient spending is maintaining small primary settings, some of which have have pupil numbers below 100. It says to solve this, DESC should explore the possibility of rationalising the most inefficient primary schools. The schools it suggests are Annika, Braddon, Manor Park, Williston, Ballath, Andreas and Bride, Foxdale and Doon. However, DESC does not accept this recommendation, as it says it recognises the value of schools serving their communities while students' educational outcomes remain strong. To see the report in full and the department's response, head to manxradio.com.
Ramsey Commissioner's application to extend its boundary have been rejected. Our local democracy reporter Emma Draper.
Ramsey Commissioners requested a public inquiry to expand its boundary into areas of Lozère and Garth because it believed the town had reached capacity. However, the latter two authorities have previously called the move territorial and defended this position in January. Peter Taylor chaired the inquiry for 3 days, and his conclusion was to reject the application on the basis that the town has enough land to develop already. His report found there was sufficient land to accommodate a predicted growth of roughly 500 people until 2031. Mr Taylor also said it should be left to central government to determine where housing was needed, and boundaries should be considered during the planning process. One of his other conclusions was that the application was driven by the need for Ramsey Commissioners to fund itself and increase its rateable income to meet its needs. But this, he said, should fall equally on the shoulders of all residents which use the town as a service centre. A recommendation has been made to the Commissioners to ensure its infrastructure is good enough to deal with further increases in population. Then, Ramsey Commissioners could make specific applications to extend the boundary if needed. Peter Taylor also concluded that the current rating system was one of the main reasons for the boundary application, and the system needed to be addressed so speculative boundary applications can be avoided in the future. He concluded that decisions about developments made on political boundaries should be resolved in a planning process rather than in unsuitable boundary expansion inquiries.
This is the most listened to Isle of Man news source, and Manx Radio's Update is the Isle of Man's most downloaded news podcast.
Faster by 23 minutes now before 6 this Monday evening. Manx cyclist Sir Mark Cavendish's first ever coach says she's blown away after learning he's been knighted in the King's Birthday Honours list. He's been recognised for his outstanding contributions to the sport. Here's Cav's first ever coach, Dot Tilbury.
I'm blown away. I just think it's well deserved, and I'm just thrilled for Mark and his family, as well as the whole of the Isle of Man. We're so proud. You know, he's kept the TV channel hot with all his exploits, and what a fabulous ambassador for the Isle of Man. And to be honoured with a knighthood is just icing on the cake. He's inspired generations. You know, Mark won the World Championships, and the following year at the NSC, we signed on 672 children cycling. So how's that for inspiration and inspiring young people to get on their bike and take up cycling? Do you know, I always think that from an early age, Mark sort of realised this is what he wanted to do with his life, and he was so passionate about it, and there was nothing going to stop him really, and he was very good at sorting out what he was going to do and how he was going to do it, and read up on things and just educated himself about cycling and knew where he was going, and he never let up, and he liked being on the top step of the podium. So second and third were perhaps okay, but the top step was every time is what he aimed for.
18 people who were caught supplying drugs in the Isle of Man's nighttime economy will be sentenced this week. The story with Tessa Hawley.
The 18 were all arrested as part of Operation Nightjar. The police initiative, which ran between July and November last year, targeted the supply of Class A substances.
As a comparison, the price of cocaine on the streets of the Isle of Man is 3 times the price of cocaine on the streets of Merseyside. Throughout the latter part of 2023, the Isle of Man Constabulary, working in partnership with the North West Regional Organised Crime Unit, have engaged in a covert operation with the objective of identifying individuals actively dealing Class A drugs throughout the nighttime economy, predominantly in or around licensed premises.
That's the Chief Constable Russ Foster. In February, the Isle of Man Constabulary released a promotional video showcasing the work the police had been undertaking. As a result of Operation Nightjar, 18 defendants who've pleaded guilty to drugs offences are now due to be sentenced before the Court of General Jail Delivery. 6 men appeared before Deemster Graham Cook at Douglas Courthouse today, where their advocates put forward their mitigation. The court heard that in some cases, undercover officers had approached the men after being given their mobile numbers or Snapchat details when asking people where they could buy sniff. Officers had then approached the men, sometimes on repeated occasions, handing over £100 per deal of cocaine. Another 7 defendants have been listed to appear before Deemster Cook tomorrow, where their mitigation will be put forward, and 5 will appear on Wednesday. Sentencing will then take place on Thursday and Friday. You can find more on this story at manxradio.com.
The only radio station that's Manx, and we're proud of it. Celebrating 60 years, this is Manx Radio.
With the Manx golf season now underway, heading into the summer months, it's hoped more can start to take up the sport locally for the long term. The Isle of Man men's golf captain Darrell Callister believes there may be historic perceptions of the game which it's hoped can be dispelled to get the next generation of players involved.
There was a big increase around COVID of sort of golf was one of the first back, and there was a big increase of sort of numbers, but it probably hasn't translated across into the sort of competitive side. It's sort of missing a little bit of the junior section, doesn't appear to be as grand as it once was. So yeah, it'd be great to see in the coming years, hopefully with boost from Anna and Tom competing, that they encourage more juniors to get into golf and not only play but to compete.
What maybe are some of the challenges that might pose younger players in getting involved, or maybe puts them off getting involved?
It's probably still got a little bit of a bad reputation, golf, as an older person sport, but it's definitely not. And across sort of America, it's got a massive growing trend of sort of more athletic people getting into the game from the very beginning. Loads more people have access to the game now than they once did. So it's just hopefully getting that translated across to the Isle of Man to encourage more people to try the game. We've got beautiful outside scenery on the Isle of Man, as all our golf courses are situated in. So it's a wonderful way just to experience the outside, but also socialise.
How do you suppose go about busting the myth, as it were, about the perception that some may have about it?
You've just got to get involved, really. I think there is some efforts being done to sort of bring golf more into schools, give more people access to try golf for the first time. And I think that's the first thing, really. It's just that first attempt at the game and sort of make your own opinion of it rather than listening to those that might not have played. But yeah, it is changing. It's becoming more of a sort of, a lot of the golf clubs are adapting more of a sort of family environment, lots of taster days and sort of getting different groups and work groups and sort of into sort of try the game, really. So the more of that happens, more people hopefully translates into playing the game.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 17 minutes before 6, in corporate news, Revolut Limited announced it's moving its global headquarters into one of Canary Wharf's iconic buildings, signalling its continued commitment to London as it looks ahead to a potential listing. The fintech will make the move in May and ultimately take up 4 floors in the 14-storey YY London building. The new lease, which is set to last for 10 years, expands Revolut's office footprint across London by 40%. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. The UK's main stock market retook its crown as Europe's most valuable for the first time in nearly 2 years, data shows. The total value of companies listed at the London Stock Exchange hit $3.18 trillion today, overtaking the $3.13 trillion total value of companies listed in Paris, according to Bloomberg. Both valuations have shifted since and remain close, but analysts describe it as a milestone. They say the French market slumped because of the uncertainty around its election, while the UK market's recovering after several years of underperformance. The LSE had been Europe's largest stock market for many years before November 2022, when it was overtaken. Analysts at the time blamed the LSE's performance on the fallout from the former Prime Minister Liz Truss's mini-budget, a weak pound, recession fears and Brexit. The LSE was worth about $1.4 trillion more than its Parisian rival in 2016.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European stocks were mixed. France's CAC 40 rose 0.9%. Wall Street stocks were flattish. Brent oil rose after booking the best week since April. Gold was weaker as the US dollar held firm. And the numbers from Ramsey Crookall at the close in London. The FTSE 100 down 0.4%, 8,143. The DAX in Frankfurt up up 0.4% at 18,075. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial up just over 0.1%, 38,636. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index up almost 0.2% at 17,719, and the S&P 500 almost 0.2%, 5,442. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling is trading at $1 26.9 cents, €1 18.3 cents, and 23 South African rand 18.5 cents. And finally, in commodities, gold down 0.8% at $2,312 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude up a percentage point at $83.37.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
2:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
And MHK has shared concerns over the number of pupils being suspended from the Isle of Man secondary schools. Figures shared in a recent Tynwald written answer show there have been more than 2,400 days of suspension this academic year. North Douglas David Ashford MHK set to quiz the Minister in Tynwald tomorrow.
If you look at the number of pupils across our education system that are on modified timetables, which means they're not doing the normal timetable, there is some form of modification in, those numbers are going up. If you look at the number of suspensions of pupils who basically aren't in school, those are going up. If you look at the number of, I describe it as learning days lost. I know the Department for Education don't like that term. They prefer to actually say days of suspension, because they say that there's supposed to be support put in place for pupils who are suspended to still continue to work. Must say, from a constituency point of view, I'm not seeing that as a constituent representative happening. But I think it's having huge impacts now on our children's education and the education system across the island. And what I want to know is, firstly, does the department actually acknowledge there is a problem? And secondly, how are they going to deal with that problem? I'm dealing with constituents where, pupils are being sent home quite regularly. The parents are at the end of their tether in trying to actually get a solution to this problem. They're trying to help as well. But everything seems for me to be sometimes a bit siloed. It doesn't seem to be everything's working together. So I want to actually see from the department's point of view, how are they going to engage with parents to tackle this? Because obviously the solution isn't just with the schools, the solution is with the home as well. How are parents going to be supported? How is the schools going to be supported? Because at the moment, I think this is going to have a huge impact on the next generation, both in terms of the educational development they've got and also the disruption that's going to happen to their lives later on, and we need to actually deal with it now.
Manx Radio Sport.
Fast am I, Sean Cowper.
Fast am I. Manx tennis player Billy Harris has climbed up to 162nd in the ATP World Rankings, the highest of his career. The 29-year-old jumps up 21 places after reaching the semi-finals at the Rothsay Open in Nottingham. Harris beat two higher-ranked players on his way to the last four before losing in straight sets to Charles Broome. Having also reached the semi-finals at the Surbiton Trophy this month, Harris's form has seen him linked with a Wimbledon wildcard, with the All-England club due to announce its wildcard selections later this week. The British number 6 is due to be in action again later this week when he competes at Queen's Club. Other players competing at the event include reigning Wimbledon men's singles champion Carlos Alcaraz, two-time Wimbledon champion Andy Murray and top-ranked British player Jack Draper. The NSC Cycleway will be renamed after Mark Cavendish. In a post on social media, the former minister responsible for sport, Julie Edge, said the Manx Missile agreed to have the Cycleway renamed in his honour before she left the Department of Education, Sport and Culture. She added that having the Sir Mark Cavendish Raceway on Island is an honour and will be a destination for all to visit. The department confirmed to Manx Radio that more details are expected to be released later this year. And in football, Douglas Royal is looking for a new first-team manager. The club has taken to social media, urging anyone interested in taking charge of the Canada Life Premier League side to get in touch.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway, the 5:10 EasyJet from Liverpool won't be in for the next 5 minutes or so, about a 40-minute delay. 7:25 Loganair from Edinburgh is on time. The 25 to 8 EasyJet from London Gatwick will be delayed over an hour until 10 to 9 tonight. And the 5 to 8 Loganair returning patient transfer from Liverpool is scheduled on time. Outbound, the 20 to 6 EasyJet to Liverpool won't be going until about 10 to 7. The 6 o'clock outbound patient transfer Loganair to Liverpool, that's on time. The 5 to 8 Loganair to Edinburgh's on time, and the 5 past 8 EasyJet to London Gatwick will be delayed until 20 past 9. On the roads, temporary lights on the main road between Mines Road and the Shoulder Road at Foxdale for drainage work. Look out also at Farm Hill for those lights on Vicarage Road, still there at Stevenson's Way for water main replacement. Temporary lights at the bottom of Johnny Watterson's Lane in Tremode for a new Puffin crossing. And lights on the main road near the Liverpool Arms at Baldrine for work on the pavements. Near Peel, phase closures on the Ballabooey Road for water main work. And in Union Mills, still those phase closures by Strang Road for tree felling. Temporary lights on Ramsey Road, Laxey at the Menorca Hill Junction for 3 separate phases of drainage installation. Cable laying at Sulby Bridge, got some lights there. And also watch out for phase closures at Ballakilfurrick Road for water main work. Water main work also on the Starvey Road. Temporary lights at the bottom of Ballamoda for Silverdale for resurfacing, and in Ballasella, temporary lights on the main road near the new housing estate for water main connection. Looking out in Douglas, temporary lights on Alexandra Drive at the Devonshire Road Albany Road Junction for gas main work, and nearby closures on Devonshire Road and Devonshire Crescent.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at Quayside.
It's hoped a trend in people not showing up for cervical screenings or a smear test can change. This week is Cervical Screening Awareness Week. Sandy Denning is the manager of the Staywell Clinic in Douglas.
Very early stage cervical cancer may not cause symptoms, so it's usually found and treated because of cervical screening tests. If you received a reminder letter inviting you to attend, then please make that appointment. It could save your life. At your appointment, a trained nurse takes a sample of cells from the cervix using a small, soft brush. This is then sent to the laboratory to check for the HPV virus. This is called primary HPV testing, and if they find any HPV, they then check for any cell changes in the sample. Some types of HPV can cause cervical cells to become abnormal. Most cases of cervical cancer are linked to these types of HPV. Therefore, it is really important to make that appointment when you are invited. Isle of Man Anti-Cancer Association has funded and managed the Staywell Clinic for 60 years. We are so proud to be running this service. It was set up to complement the service provided by the doctor's surgeries and to offer an alternative venue for ladies wishing to attend cervical screening. So it's situated in the Women and Children Department at Nobles Hospital, and appointments are available on Monday and Thursday evenings, completely managed by us, and you can have appointments from 6:15 till 7:30, 10 appointments every evening.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
That's tonight, it's 7 minutes now before 6. Teachers on the Isle of Man have been hearing from the chief exec of a company which says it uses AI to personalise learning experiences. Joseph Telfer, who won an award at the Innovation Challenge 2024, has been talking to those in the profession today to explain how he believes technology can support education.
So we are a personalised learning AI platform. So we help teachers, students and parents save time, enrich learning experiences by personalising the learning experience for each student based on their precise needs, characteristics, parameters, and sort of upgrade the existing assets of the school's learning materials. I had an ex-teacher come up to me expressing why they left. I had someone come up to me say they knew 8 teachers and 4 of them had already quit. This is a really major issue around the world. There are 100 million teachers around the world. 44 million more are required by 2030, but we're actually losing them from the profession. So the idea behind Top School is that we give teachers back their time and allow them to connect to students more deeply and get back to what they got into teaching for. Now we have the technology to actually enable that change to happen. The aspirations were there, but the capability wasn't, and now the technology enables us to do it.
Fostering services on the Isle of Man need more support, but a recent campaign brought awareness to the situation facing children. The Assistant Director for Children and Families, Julie Gibney, says they're low in numbers of foster carers.
A lot has come out of the fortnight. I think it's given people an understanding of what carers do. It's also highlighted the need for carers, and anybody can come to us and request information. You won't be discounted for things, kind of misconceptions where people say, oh, I'm a single carer. No, that's fine, still come along. So it kind of reduced the misconceptions. I think it also gave our current carers a boost because people were coming up and saying, wow, you do a fabulous job. So there was recognition as well. It has generated interest, and some of that interest has translated into people off the island coming to events to learn more about what fostering means. We're still on a journey. We still need more people to come and ask the question, what does this mean for me? But we are going in the right direction. There does need to be more known about what happens when you become a foster carer, but I think the fostering fortnight really raised the profile because we've had a lot of interest since that fortnight. Our current carers helped us with that and went out and supported in all the events that we did and gave information to people. We do need more carers. We will always need more carers because there will always be a need for care for vulnerable children. At the moment, we're quite low on numbers. We have about 19 current foster carers at the moment, so we need to increase the numbers to make sure we've got a choice for our children and young people when they come into care.
That's it for Update Tonight, brought to you from the resources of Manx Radio's News Department. Thanks to newsreader Tessa Hawley, producer Amy Griffiths. After the news at 6, Phil Gaughan's along with Agenda, your greatest hits with Simon Clark at 6:30, and Time for Browse with Ian Cotcher at 9. That's it. Have a great Monday evening. Update returns tomorrow, Tuesday evening at 5:30.
WINT